Many others.
The atrocities that took place during the December 7, 2020 election cannot be allowed to slide, cannot be seen as normal, cannot be seen as acceptable.
They are demanding compensation and disciplinary action against officials responsible for the acts.
Those who issued these orders, those who perpetrated these gross human rights violations ought to be brought to justice.
Tonight we'll hear from them as they claim to have all the evidence to support their petition. And Top Story is brought to you by Gasam the Nation Builder and Vodafone. Together we can. My name is Ernest Manu. Tonight it is a call for justice by two members of Parliament, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa of Notong and Emmanuel Amakufibua of Elembele. They have filed a petition at the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, SHRAJ, asking that it investigates the deaths that occurred during the 2020 elections. The petition is lodged against the Ministers of Interior and Defense, as well as the Inspector General of Police and the Chief of Defense Staff of the Ghana Armed Forces. They want disciplinary action taken against them and any official who is found complicit or working under them, who is found to have abused their power and violated the right of citizens in these deaths and injuries. My colleague Joseph Akable joins me via Zoom with details. Well, we don't have Joseph Akable on the line yet, but let's hear from Member of Parliament for Norton, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, explaining why this action is necessary.
You will have observed that some of us have been very consistent in leading advocacy, demanding justice, that the atrocities that took place during the December 7, 2020 elections cannot be allowed to slide, cannot be seen as normal, cannot be seen as acceptable, and that those who issued these orders, those who perpetrated these gross human rights violations ought to be brought to justice. And you will recall that throughout the work I did on the appointments committee, when these ministers responsible appeared before us, we did demand answers to our questions. And we clearly were not satisfied. I mean, investigations had not commenced at the time and have still not commenced. Nobody has been brought to book. There have been no effort to even compensate victims. I've been in touch with a number of the victims. They have been taking care of their own medical bills. And if care is not taken, a certain culture of impunity will emerge, and all subsequent elections will be threatened. And eventually, this democracy, the fourth Republican democracy that we are all guarding, will be threatened. It will be undermined. And that is why we have ended up as we believe that under Article 218 of the Constitution, SHRAJ has no choice but to live up to its constitutional mandate, rise up to serve the people of this republic and to end this culture of impunity.
That is the Member of Parliament for Norton, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa. He is with us on the line. Mr. Ablakwa, I'm grateful for your time here on Top Story.
Pleasure. Good evening.
Good evening. And we also have security analyst Adam Bona on the line. Mr. Bona, I'm grateful that you could join us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Gentlemen, I want you to hold the line for me. We want to help listeners understand the document that has been filed by Mr. Ablakwa and the MP for Elembele. My colleague, who is also our court correspondent, Joseph Akable, joins me via Zoom to break it down for us. Joseph, let's start with the specific constituencies involved in this document that you have.
And so there are a number of constituencies. Specifically, first there's the bit about Techiman South, and they make reference to the fact that there was a death that was recorded there, and they make the point that it happened because of the fact that there were shootings that took place, and making the point again that it happened in a manner that was indiscriminate, and the security agents or the men in uniform did not shoot in a manner that was because there was an imminent threat. And so they make that reference. They make reference to Ablekuma as well, and say that specifically at the area at the Odoko branch, the coalition center there, a death was also recorded there. And so that is also another area that they also identify. Another area is also Savelugu as well. Then they make the point again that here also some injuries were recorded. And the point they keep making when you make reference to these areas is the similarity. They say that what happened in all those areas are very similar in that, again, without having a situation where you had a threat in place where you could say that those in uniform were part of the National Election Security Task Force were justified in using or firing rounds as they did. It says they were not, and rather ended up injuring people.
And indeed, there's Ododo Diodo as well, and that is a constituency
Yes,
I covered during the 2020 elections and reported on the 2 deaths recorded there. But Joseph, give us the legal justification that is provided in this petition.
A reference is made to Article 218 of Ghana's Constitution, and they say that it empowers Shraj to investigate violations of fundamental human rights, abuses of power, injustice, and unfair treatment. And so they believe that what they have recounted as happening in these individual constituencies amounts to the abuse of power. There are issues of people's rights not being followed, among others. And so they believe that it's a matter that Shraj is appropriately clothed with the power to go into.
And there are 2 major reliefs they are seeking from Shraj. Run us through them.
And so there's the bit about compensation. They also make the point that disciplinary action or prosecution should be undertaken by way of those who are responsible for these matters that they talk about. And again, it's important to say that they say they are ready with video evidence. They also have medical reports and are prepared to call witnesses who corroborate all these matters that, if alleged, happened in the various constituencies.
Joseph, thank you very much. Let's do a quick check on some of these stories that we have covered here at Joy News. We covered the Techiman South constituency issue. Correspondent Anas Abid joins us via Zoom. Anas, what is the latest? Do we have any update on this situation? We know that the police said it was investigating. I recall the Interior Minister was there to meet with the families. What has happened since then?
Yeah, and it's what we know is that the last time we heard from the police or investigators in relation to this case has to do with when the Interior Minister visited somewhere in June this year. That's about 2 months ago. And when he visited, and that was the first time he was visiting the victims to assure them that the matter is still under investigation and that his office or his ministry will ensure that justice is served the people. Since then, we've not heard anything actually in relation to this. I tried engaging some of the families, and none of them has said anything as in they hearing something from the ministry or the security agency since the visit of the Interior Ministry. So that is what we know for now. From June to date, we don't know if there have been any action taken since the visit by the Interior Minister.
Anas, thank you very much for bringing us update on that situation there. Now, in Ablekuma as well, we know that a court case was started. Somebody was arrested as a suspect in that shooting incident there. My colleague Kweku Asante was in court on a few occasions to follow up. Kweku, what was the last time you went to court and what happened? What's the update on this?
Right, so on 13th of January this year, the court actually granted Kola, the person who is a national security operative who is suspected to have fired gunshots at the place, maiming some lives, was actually granted bail to the sum of 200,000 Ghana cedis. Since then, the case has stalled for a while. Not much progress has been made. Significantly, even before this 200,000 cedis bail was granted to this person, the case suffered several adjournments, and the prosecutor said they were still investigating, they were still trying to put together their facts. So up until the time when this Mr. Kweku was actually granted a bail to the tune of 200,000 cedis, the case has stalled.
Thank you very much. That's my colleague Kweku Asante. Now on Ododo, I covered this myself. In fact, I recall that there were a little over 20 persons arrested in connection with the incidents there. 5 were charged with murder. They were later released on bail. We do not know what has happened to that issue till date. Let me go on to the phone lines now and speak to Samuel Okujeto Blakwa, who filed this petition jointly with his colleague, the Member of Parliament for Lembele, Emmanuel Amakofibua. Mr. Blakwa, before we even come to the petition, I know that a motion was filed in Parliament on these issues of injuries and deaths recorded during the 2020 elections. What happened to that?
Well, good evening. Thank you very much. Yes, you are right that the motion was filed, and one of the sponsors of that motion. It will appear that the other side did not show interest in the motion, and so it did not move to the next stage. So you'll recall that at some point it even disappeared from the order paper, and we had to raise it a couple of occasions. We were told that there were some discussions taking place behind the scenes, but it's clear that there was no sense of urgency so far as that motion is concerned, and that is why the Honorable Emmanuel Amakofibua and my good self have brought this action, because really should have been activated right from the beginning.
But why not Parliament? But why not Parliament with all the powers it has? These are representatives. Why would members of Parliament not be interested in such a motion that has to do with the people they represent, some of whom have died as a result of the actions of public officials?
You do know, I'm sure you're no stranger in Jerusalem, that often the challenge of Parliament has been the extreme partisanship. And all parties have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. There's just too much partisanship. And that is why I am glad that we are removing this matter away from the politicians. Let's send it to the experts. Shraj is cloaked with a constitutional mandate under Article 218. And you can't expect, Commissioner Joe Whittle and the other commissioners have enormous credibility. They are of high repute, very well regarded. If you look at how ombudsmen are regarded in the Committee of Nations, Commissioner Joe Whittle stands very tall. So I am glad that the extreme partisanship that often greets such important matters in Parliament has now been removed into the domain of Shraj. For Shraj, which has the mandate to go into human rights violations, to now be well seized with this matter, its jurisdiction has now been invoked, and it can fully delve into these matters, deal with the perpetrators, ensure that justice is served, so that these 7 persons who have been killed and the many who are suffering life-changing injuries will have justice and compensation, and also make far-reaching recommendations so that.
And Mr. Blackwell, we'll come to these reliefs that you are seeking. We'll come to these reliefs that you are seeking from Shraj shortly. But let me stay in Parliament a while longer, because when the Member of Parliament for Techiman South appeared before the Appointments Committee, a committee that you are part of, that question was put about the incidents that were recorded at Techiman South during the election, and this was his response. Let's listen to him briefly, and then I'll follow up with a question.
We have collaborated in ensuring that first and foremost we unify the constituency. But I do accept and agree that, Mr. Chairman, unity is important, but justice goes with that. And so we've taken a number of steps. We've petitioned various bodies. As I speak, I'm aware that some investigations which were conducted by the police, I'm told, are ready. We have lent our support to some action which is also being started in Parliament by some friends in the minority. And so, Mr. Chairman, we very much regret what happened.
So that is Martin J. Mensah Costa there saying that he is aware that the investigations into the incidents there are ready and that very soon they will be presented. Mr. Blackwell, this was a lead you could have followed.
My brother, there was an even more authoritative lead on the 10th of December last year when the National Election Security Task Force issued a statement. At the time, 5 persons had died. That was immediately after the election. Ibrahim Abbas was still battling for his life. Sadly, he died days after this statement was issued, so the numbers went up. If you go through this statement, the National Election Security Task Force states, and let me read the data. The National Election Security Task Force deems the incidents recorded to be incidents that could have been avoided and therefore condemns their occurrence and promises to investigate each one of them. This is since the 10th of December. Up to now, not even an update, no report, nobody has been interdicted, no sanctions. I mean, it's just anytime they are asked, then, we are investigating, a report will be ready soon, stand by. No seriousness. The commander-in-chief, the chair of the National Security Council, the president himself, refuses to talk about this. He has offered 2 messages of the state of the nation. Not a mention. He can't be bothered. He is the greatest beneficiary of the December 7, 2020 elections. Never in the history of elections in our country have we gone into elections and 7 people have been killed. It's never happened. Even in 1992, when the military regime was handing over and was becoming democratic, and there were lots of fears, President Rawlings, God bless his soul, supervised elections that were peaceful. This is the bloodiest election we have had in our history. And people think that they can pretend nothing happened, all is well, play ostrich. Anytime they are asked, then they claim investigations are going. Investigations by who? Who are those conducting the investigation? Which committee? Who are the members of that committee? Who is sitting on that panel? Who has been interdicted? What's the status of investigation? Where is the report? Let's stop the joke. These are human lives. People have been killed as we speak. People have been maimed. And if you read the report on mobility, the medical report, it's clear that people were shot at to be killed. Look at the medical report of Abdallah Ayarek, signed by Dr. Ninan Tobias. I read with your permission. Date of admission 8 December 2020. Time reported 19 hours GMT. The above named person, Abdallah Ayarek, 80 years, was rushed to an emergency unit at approximately 19 hours GMT on 8 December 2020. On initial assessment, patient was unresponsive, bleeding from ear, nose, and throat, puncture wounds to upper body, neck, and back. Upper body. They were not even shot in the leg. Mm-hmm. Upper body.
Okay.
Metallic object, pellets dislodged from a puncture wounds on body. Vital, unrecordable.
So I guess, Mr. Bakwa, this is part of the evidence that you have submitted to Shraj.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, just hold the line briefly for me. We have on the other line Mr. Adam Buna, and I'm sorry for holding you on the line that long, Mr. Buna, but I'm grateful that you're still with us. When you hear the Interior Minister, Ambrose Derry, say, and he said this when he visited the family, he repeated it later in Parliament, that at the time he was not in charge of the ministry. What signal does it send you as far as this petition filed at Shraj is concerned?
Thank you very much, Ernest. Well, as far as I'm concerned, I think that this application submitted to, or this petition sent to Shraj, I don't think it is going to produce anything. Shraj itself is incapacitated. You can go back and check your records, Ernest. Soldiers are on record to have beaten some young persons in the Tamale or the northern region. I watched, in fact, I'm aware of those stories. I also watched them on your network.
Yes, and that is Jojo Cobner's documentary, As If We Weren't Humans.
I watched it, and you cataloged a lot of these incidents of brutality meted out by officers who we are paid for to take care of us and to protect us, and it was sent to Shraj, and Shraj is still investigating. How many years down the line? Some of these people are still alive with permanent injuries. And so for me, I am at loss. If you ask me, this application by Honorable Okujeto and Amabua to Shraj, when they know that probably the ombudsman or Shraj is incapacitated because they don't have the the law, as he quoted the law is there. But if they don't have the resources to fast track some of these cases, investigate them, then I don't know what this petition is going to do. Unless, of course,
let me put that to Mr. Blackwell. Mr. Blackwell, if the example.
Let me just continue before you do that. You've been holding me for a long time.
Very well.
So
kindly wrap
saying,
up on this.
Technically, is that if Parliament, which is one of the foundations of our democracy, okay, Parliament, the legislative arm of government, with 137, okay, you remember my brother, the Speaker of Parliament, recently reminded us that there is no majority in Parliament. I want to see this particular division in Parliament to inure to the benefit of Ghanaians, not the other way around. And so I'm expecting my friends, Honorable Kujeto and Honorable Amabua, to go back, probably withdraw this petition, and ensure that there are 137 in Parliament, and that 137 by the MPP comes to play. So that at the end of the day, if they do believe that if it's not to do, you remember when Ken Oforiatta, I'm not digressing, but when Ken Oforiatta presented a certain, I think there was a budget, then there was a budgetary cut for Parliament. You had the Speaker of Parliament say, you either go back to what we want or we will not approve yours. Quickly, the executive approved. And so what I am saying is that going by all this, I'm expecting the members who have petitioned Parliament petition the ombudsman or the, what's the name?
Shraj.
To withdraw this petition, go back, redo their work, and ensure that those who were probably part of this criminality that we all know, or part of what happened, are investigated and, if possible, prosecuted. But when it comes to prosecuting issues that have to do with firearms, people dying through firearms and all that, the loss of time is very important. You would have the video evidence, but video evidence could tell one story, and then when you speak to witnesses, they tell another story. So, Ernest, mine is that to tell you in very simple terms, this petition to Parliament is just to Shraj, is to kill the case, is to ensure that this thing will travel for another 8 years, and we will not see anything. So please, let's see the 137 by the NDC, 137 by the MPP, play out to inure to the human rights things they are talking about in that petition, as far as I'm concerned, Ernest.
Yes, and please hold the line. Mr. Blackwell, if what Mr. Bonai is saying, and if the Joy News experience is anything to go by in the documentary that he cites there, Civil Warrant Human, produced by Jojo Kobna, in that case, when Strat took over investigations, it indeed established that human rights have been violated and recommended compensation, but also in the case of the military officers who had brutalized these persons, Shraj only recommended that the institution, the military, prosecute these individuals, and that is yet to happen. So you can be sure that if indeed a case is established, some recommendation for compensation may be given, but the other aspect, which is the disciplinary action you are asking Shraj to either recommend, may be a bit of a challenge. Do you see that, Mr. Blackwell?
I have enormous respect for Mr. Adam Bona, and he has just rendered quite a damning verdict on Shraj. I take the view that he has been too harsh on Shraj, because this is the same institution that managed to carry out investigations, which led to the removal of an officer who is a constitutional, office holder, who is a very important personality in our country, and I refer to Madam Loretta Lamptey. You recall that matter,
yes,
that one of your colleagues the respected lawyer.
This was a case Samson,
yes,
exactly,
I mean,
conducted.
And I know of many other investigations that Suraj has carried out that came to his logical conclusion, and that the observers were impressed with the quality of work and the outcome of investigations. Even in recent times, if you look at the work they did on Kano Foriata, you look at the work they did on a number of these Supreme Court judges who had not declared their assets. So I think, to be fair to Shraj, when they are given the opportunity, if there are no interferences, impediments, I mean, they have the ability to produce results. So I would rather that instead of condemning Shraj and questioning their credibility and their ability to delve into such matters. Yes, there have been concerns in the past, but is there any institution in this world which is perfect? These are human institutions.
Mr. Blacko, I believe that the specific issue
to deliver and to improve on their track record, and I believe that in this matter, we can count on Shraj to carry out credible work.
Yeah, Mr. Blackwell, just before you proceed.
No. If I can just deal with...
Yeah, briefly, because we're running out of time.
The second point Mr. Bona made about Parliament and that we should withdraw and go back to Parliament. Look, nothing stops Parliament from going into various angles. There are so many aspects to this election violence and this grave human rights violations that occurred in December 2020. Parliament is not a stop. Shraj has a mandate to perform every support and every encouragement to carry out his mandate. Shraj will have no excuse complaint before them.
And Mr. Bona, just before we wrap up on this, do you think that the institutions themselves, the police service, the military, by now should have instituted some investigation by themselves to, if any wrongdoing is established, punish these officers involved?
Okay, so let me just answer. I didn't condemn Shraj, so let me correct an impression. I did, in my statement, what I said was that Shraj doesn't have the resources it's required of them to be able to. It's required of them to be able to perform their statutory functions. And Joseph Witao is a friend, and sometimes we'll find out from members of his team, and they tell you that we are doing our best with the limited resources we have. It is based on that I am saying that if some of these things are given to institutions that are mandated by law to investigate these matters, and the required resources are not available to them, it becomes very difficult for them to go ahead and do it. But then, to answer the other the substantive issue you just asked, with regards to the police, I know that somehow I've spoken to members of the Ghana Police Service, the previous administration and the current administration. The previous administration did say they were investigating it. And then I kept asking them, you are investigating, where have you reached with this particular carnage that probably we saw? This death that we saw during the election is unprecedented. It shouldn't have happened. It's happened. What are you doing about it? They said they were investigating. The current administration, I am aware that they said they are going to pick up the pieces and investigate. But for me, I think it's a continuous, police would have to ensure that whoever perpetrated this particular crime or whoever killed these people is brought to book and punished. It's very important. And so I'm hoping that as the Honorable Interior Minister did say, that the issues they were under investigations, the police will come up and tell us whatever reports they have, so that we know that these lives that were needlessly lost, probably we don't have to see that again during